Hey, how's it going, guys? So I wanted to make a video kind of talking about the top 5 mistakes that I've made, but there's a little bit of a difference in this topic. I don't know about you, but I often learn as much from the mistakes of others as I do their successes. So hopefully you can learn a thing or two from my mistakes.
Number 1. Not testing the water enough.
This first mistake is kind of like the flossing analogy. How many times do you floss a week? And usually people say, oh, I floss like every day, every other day. And statistics show that like 1% of the people floss, or it's some ridiculously small percentage, but people like to say that they do. Water testing is kind of like that. I often get the question like, should I be adding iodine, or should I be adding this particular supplement or that particular supplement? And my answer always is, well, have you tested your water? Are you actually low for those particular items? And oftentimes the answer is, I have no idea, I don't really test. So there you go. Test your water. And I don't test my water as often as I should. So we try to do it at least once a week here. And again, it's kind of like flossing. 1 week turns into 2 weeks, turns into 3 weeks. And before you know it, it's been a couple months since we last did a water chemistry test.
Number 2. Not having backup pumps handy.
If you haven't been in this hobby for a very long time, one of the things that you can pretty much bank on is that stuff is going to break. And a lot of times that stuff comes in the form of a pump, whether it be a skimmer pump or a return pump or even just little power heads in your tank. And it is always a really good idea to have backup pumps. We only have maybe one backup pump that's a return pump. And again, so if you're going to prioritize, obviously you want the mission critical stuff being backed up. So you definitely want to have a return pump and a skimmer pump backed up. But here's a little pro tip. Oftentimes you can get the same pump, like the same pump model, to replace almost every other pump. So for example, if you have a Venturi skimmer, you can operate that with a mag, or like an external pump you can use like in a walkie or whatever. But you can also use those same pumps for your return. So if you, for example, had, let's say, a mag 18 as a return, a mag 18 powering your skimmer. I mean, I'm saying Venturi skimmers, but honestly, most people nowadays have needle wheels, which is obviously going to be a little bit more challenging to use the same pump to back up both. But in this example, let's say you're using a mag 18. So if you had a spare mag 18, you could easily replace both a skimmer pump that fails as well as your return pump that fails. So always a good idea for that. And I guess that's my argument for kind of having consistency across the board as far as when you're designing your system. However, we use a bunch of different pumps here, and although I try to normalize that and to kind of consolidate all that down to like one type of pump, what normally happens in my case is that I end up being disappointed with that one particular pump and then having to kind of transition out of it. And in that transition, I end up with like 5 different pumps.
Number 3. Not enough room to work.
So this third issue often comes when you're planning your system and there's like the singular focus to the tank itself. And that's obviously easy to get into because that's why we get into this hobby to begin with. It's all really about the tank. But one thing that most folks don't quite realize in the planning process is that as the person that has to take care of the tank, you end up spending most of your time in the work areas of the tank rather than the observation areas of the tank. So I would venture to guess that a lot of time is spent messing around in the sump, messing around behind the tank, getting at cables and everything, trying out new devices that again aren't necessarily in the display tank. One of my customers kind of put it perfectly. It's like, well, the front of the tank, that's for my family and friends. The back of the tank, that's for me. He's gone ahead and designed an entire filtration room and probably will spend 80% of his time with the tank in there doing work. Having the greenhouse system here It's definitely something worth considering when designing the facility is usable workspace. I mean, if you were to try to plan out like an aquaculture facility, a lot of times people just start filling it with tanks. Like, how many tanks and square feet of tank space can I put into this building in order to start growing coral? When really what you should be also considering very highly is, how many tables do I have? How many sinks do I have? You'll realize very quickly the value of just usable workspace. So I tend to, when people ask me a little bit about system design, even just for a home hobbyist, I always kind of go back to that question of like, how easy is it going to be for you to maintain this? Is it going to be a very, very deep tank? That's going to be a challenge. Also, is everything in the sump going to be like a fitted suit tight? That's going to be a problem over time as well. Technology creep happens where people start adding in more and more and more devices, and the whole thing just becomes like a snake pit, and it becomes really, really, really packed and hard to take out that one thing and clean it. So again, prioritize a lot of functional workspace.
Number 4, neglecting maintenance on the reef.
If you follow this channel at all, you know that I'm a big proponent of water changes, and they never happen at the frequency we want, I guess. So here, we try to do 2 water changes a week of 150 gallons total, minimum, and often that even slides. Yeah, it's always one of those things. It can always do more. And when you're talking about scale and just like the overall benefits of a water change, it's overwhelmingly cheap and effective. And yet it's difficult to schedule that in. So that's one thing that we definitely struggle with here. More water changes. Do some water changes. You should do a water change today, in fact.
Number 5, buying livestock without researching.
So a big pet peeve of mine is people that just purchase something without researching and oftentimes run into a problem later, or worse yet, the animal just dies from lack of proper care. Huge pet peeve of mine. So why do I say that I still have this problem? It's not so much that I've picked out something, but there's purchasing that goes on here that's that other folks do. And sometimes we just end up with something that like I personally would never have bought. And I come to the greenhouse and thinking, when did we start having those here? 0.1% of the time, something like a flame scallop will show up, and it's like, nobody keeps those alive, ever. Nobody. Why is that here in my system? But yeah. The take home from that is, A, don't let anybody just fill your tank with stuff. But B, also, like, do as much research as possible. If you go to the local pet store and you see something that you've never seen before, oh my gosh, it's so rare. There might be a reason why they're super rare. Oftentimes those super rare things aren't really that rare. They just don't survive. And it's waiting for a sucker. So you can either let the store take the loss and kill it, or you can bail them out, put it into your tank, and then kill it. So yeah, leave it alone. All right, guys, so that was a list of my top 5 persistent mistakes that unfortunately I continue to make. So in the comments below, let me know if you have similar things on your list. Thanks again. Happy reefing.